Hi guys, Ashley here and welcome to SCZ Live. Today we're in the Velt building with our awesome keepers Mike, Jody, and Kayla, and they're going to talk to us a little bit about our rhinos.
Hey, welcome back to the Velt area. Today we're going to do some training with the rhinos. One of the things the vets have asked us to do is get baseline radiographs on the rhinos' feet and legs, so we've been practicing with that. The keepers have built a box for the rhinos to stand on, and the function of that plastic box is to allow the x-ray plate to go inside of that so that it's inside something that is strong enough that the rhino's weight won't break down or won't crush the x-ray plate. Kayla and Jody are starting out today with Clyde, our male rhino. He is 18 years old and came to us from the Cincinnati Zoo. The treats that we're using for this training are bananas. Bananas are basically rhino candy. It is their absolute favorite treat. And so right now they're working on positioning him to cue the foot to come up on the box so that eventually when we are done with the training, we'll be able to have the vets come down and actually take pictures of their foot structure. This is something that they asked us to do because rhinos are a fairly large, high-weight animal, and they're carrying a lot of weight on those legs, so it's a good idea to get an idea of what their foot structure looks like to make sure that we don't have any underlying problems as they get older. As I said, Clyde is 18 years old, and that's kind of a little above middle age for a rhino. They can easily live into their 30s. We've had rhinos here at the zoo in the past that have lived well into their late 30s. So this is something that is going well for us right now. You can see the different targets that they're using to position not only his head but his feet. And Jody is using her cell phone, much like we did with the hippo last time, just to kind of add some different light to the procedure and the training to kind of simulate the lights on the x-ray machine.
So what is their favorite food? I know you said bananas are like candy for them, but is that their favorite?
Probably their favorite treat. The rhino's regular diet consists of an alfalfa-based grain called ADF16. They also get sweet potatoes, apples, and carrots, along with a lot of alfalfa, which is kind of the green grassy looking stuff that you see in Clyde's stall. They also, for some reason, like celery, which I don't understand because it is not one of my favorites, but they certainly seem to enjoy it. But when we're doing some big time training, or when we're doing the wild encounters, the greeting feeds that we do with the rhinos, we always use bananas because it's their absolute favorite.
So how much food could Clyde eat in a day?
You're gonna make me do the math in my head. What does he get? 13 pounds of grain. The alfalfa per flake is about, I want to say 4 pounds. If he gets 8 flakes a day, that's 32 pounds of alfalfa per day.
Wow.
And this is an animal that definitely weighs over 3,000 pounds. We don't have an actual weight on Clyde because he maxes out our scale, which goes up to 3,000 pounds. But we're in the process of getting a new one so we can get an accurate weight on him.
Now, Clyde is our male rhino, correct?
That is correct.
So what kind of rhinos are these?
These are the black rhinos. They're one of the 2 species of rhinos from Africa. They're the black rhinos and the white rhinos. The major differences between the two are white rhinos are a little bit bigger than these guys are, and then their lip is the other big difference. If you can see when Kayla's treating him, you can kind of see how his lip kind of juts out to pick up the treat. It's called a prehensile lip. And black rhinos are a browsing animal, meaning that they'll eat tall grasses, low leaves off of tree branches, things like that. The white rhino has a very flat upper lip, and they are a grazer. They eat more off of the ground.
So does the prehensile lip help the black rhino to be able to grab those leaves then?
Absolutely, yep. sometimes that thing has a mind of its own.
So do you guys do any other training with your rhinos?
We do. It all started off with simple target training, which is the target is what Kayla has in her hand right now, and that switched. That was kind of the basis for us, and then we progressed with that for not only putting their foot up on a block. We do regular blood draws with the rhinos, which is something that we had to desensitize and train them for. And now like I said, we're moving on to the X-ray training for their feet and legs.
Now, are rhinos a species that's in need of conservation?
Absolutely. There are approximately 3,500 black rhinos left in the world, and so they are definitely an animal that is endangered and needs some help. Numbers continue to go up a little bit thanks to a lot of the anti-poaching conservation that goes on out there. The reason that they're poached is for the rhino horns. There are cultures that believe that it has medicinal value, but to be perfectly honest, the rhino horn is made up of the same thing as our fingernails are. So it'd be just, you could clip your fingernails and put them in a cup of tea, and that would be as medicinal as a rhino horn would be. It's just unfortunate that there's thousands of years of belief in that, and it's a hard thing to break.
Mm-hmm. Now, Clyde seems to be a pretty big rhino. How much does he weigh again?
We're not sure of his actual weight. We do know that he weighs at least over 3,000 pounds because he does max out our scale. Once we get a scale that'll weigh something higher, then we'll be able to get an accurate weight on him. But he does get up on the platform, and again, that was another training process that we went through. We just need something that's going to get his bulk
Hold
on
him,
there.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, what kind of things is the Sedgwick County Zoo doing to help conserve rhinos?
Part of it is just the education factor, but we do support various conservation programs in the wild. I believe, and I probably shouldn't say anything because I don't know for sure, but most of the stuff that we participate in kind of goes through the International Rhino Foundation. They kind of make various recommendations on what is needed as far as conservation goes, and so we'll put our conservation dollars through that.
Very cool. And we've been having some cold weather the last few days. What kind of temperatures do these rhinos really enjoy to be in here in Kansas?
Usually 40 degrees is the number that we work with, as long as the temperature is above 40, and that does include wind chill. The rhinos will be in their outdoor exhibits. We've had a lot of rain recently, which when that corresponds with the temperatures, they absolutely love. We were actually laughing the other day that we put Clyde out, and he actually went into his mud hole before he went to his food. It seemed like that for whatever reason that morning that the mud was way better thing to have than his morning food was. So they really enjoy that, and they use that mud even though they have very thick skin. It's also very sensitive. So they use that mud to help keep the bugs off of their skin, as well as use it as sunscreen.
That sounds like so much fun. Now, do we have a breeding program for our rhinos?
We do. We have breeding recommendations for Clyde and our female BB. Unfortunately, so far with Clyde and BB, we haven't been successful, but BB has had 2 calves here in the past. So we are hopeful that one day we'll have another baby rhino here.
Fingers crossed. Now, do rhinos actually have really bad eyesight? I've heard that a lot.
They do. That is not the sense that they are known for. They don't have great eyesight. They rely much more on their sense of smell and their sense of hearing. I think the keepers are ready to go over and do the training with BB now. Clyde did a good job.
So how frequently do you train these guys?
Maybe, with something like this, we might do it once or twice a week just to stay up on it. A lot of times it depends on just the time that we have as keepers. We have a variety of animals that we have to take care of. But again, once or twice a week is usually sufficient over time to get something trained. The keepers are now going to start working with BB, our female rhino. She is 22 years old, and BB actually came to us from a zoo in Japan. Back when we were bringing BB into the zoo, we weren't finding a very good breeding match for our male at the time in this country. So many of the conservation programs and SSPs, which stand for Species Survival Plan, are international. And so we were able to look at female rhinos in other countries, and it was determined that BB, again from a zoo in Japan, was a good match for our male. So we were actually able to bring a completely new genetic animal into the United States population. You might notice, working with BB here, that her horns are cut, which is something that we recently did. When we were talking earlier about breeding, we're getting to that time of year where the rhinos can be out more and will be together more. And so one of the things that we do prior to that is we trim their horns just so they're very blunt. Rhino breeding can be an interesting experience to watch. They can be very aggressive with each other. So one of the things that we do is blunt those horns so that when they're fighting or sparring, they don't hurt each other quite as much.
And how many calves has BB had in the past?
She has had 2 calves here at the Sedgwick County Zoo, and both of those calves have gone on to other zoos and had their own calves. So BB is actually a grandmother.
Now, is it common for animals to come from other countries to zoos in North America?
It becomes more and more common. Like I said, it's one of those things that many of these species survival plans are international, and so we can look internationally for animals that match up as good genetic breeding with the animals here in this country. We've had numerous animals come in. We had an orangutan once that came in from Germany, and like I said, BB is from Japan. So it happens. It's challenging, that's for sure. Just the paperwork and the transport. The trip that BB made from Japan to here is she was in a large crate on a cargo plane, and they took off from Japan and flew basically halfway across the world. They had to actually land in, I want to say it was Alaska, or maybe it was Hawaii, I forget which. But they had to land, refuel, and then from there they flew to Chicago, and we drove up in a big cargo truck and picked her up at Chicago and drove her back here to Wichita and unloaded her, and it was amazing. She did great for the trip. She was slightly, I don't want to say sedated, but she had some feel-good juice, and she was doing so well that they didn't have to give her any more halfway through the trip.
That's awesome. So how long do rhinos sleep?
I've never really paid attention to how often they sleep. I honestly don't know how long that they will actually lay down and sleep for a period of time, but it's kind of funny. Sometimes you can walk out on it, or walk past the exhibits, and you can kind of see them just standing in the yard, and you can tell that they're kind of sleeping.
So do you guys ever brush them or give them a bath?
We do both. They love to be brushed. We have big scrub brushes that we'll use, and just rub their skin down and brush them underneath, especially underneath their bellies. And sometimes they enjoy it so much they actually flop down and lay on their sides. And of course, bathing is something that we'll do more in the wintertime, since they can't be out in mud, and they love to splash in the puddles in their rooms. And a bath might be something we would do like on a day that we were going to do a blood draw, because we'd want them clean, their legs clean, for when we insert the needle to draw the blood.
So how many species of rhinos are there, and where are they found?
Like I said, there's the 2 African species, and then I believe the other 2 that are in zoos and conservation values. So there's the Indian, and there's also Javan. Those are the two big ones that they work with conservation-wise that are in Asia, and their numbers are even lower than the African species are.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for SCZ Live, and remember, even though we're closed, we're still caring.